Welcome everyone to our West Tennessee STEM Hub after school PD session on STEM designation. We have joining us here Ben DiChiara from TSIN and former CTE director for Peabody High School. We have Kerith Griffin, the executive director of the University Middle School. We have Jessica Buddy, assistant principal, Rivercrest Elementary. They are 2023 STEAM designation, as is University Middle. And we have Anna Shelton, who's a district STEM coordinator for Trenton School District. Peabody High School in Trenton was STEM designated in 2020. I'm going to pass it over to the panel with an initial question, which is the same for everyone, at least for the school folks, which is give a history of STEM or STEAM in your school or district and what your role is within the designation. And I think we'll start off with Ben.
All right. Thanks for having me, and I really appreciate you sending me the invite. So if it's all right, I'd like for Anna and I to kind of present this information together. She and I worked very closely together when I was at Peabody in the Trenton Special School District. So just to start, Trenton Special School District is made up of 3 schools, elementary, middle, and high school. And our interest in STEM designation started in the 2018 school year. 2017 was really when we got the program up and going. But the 2018 years, we really started implementing more of the project-based learning, the engineering design process, and STEM as a whole. So Anna had joined us in 2019. Is that right, Anna? Fall of 2019 was when she started there, and just immediately jumped in and wanted to start incorporating all the STEM concepts into her geometry class, which she did a fantastic job. So it started with a class that was nowhere close to a STEM class. It was a driver's ed. It took about 3 weeks to get through the driver's ed content, and my students needed something more. So I attended a STEM expo in Chicago and just thought, this is what we have to do here. This is what's good for kids. I saw how great it was up there. And then when I came back to Tennessee, I just started looking into what's available in this area. And TSIN was one of the resources that was available. So got on their website, reached out to them. What can we do? How can we make this awesome? How can we make this better than ever before? So we really just put a lot of energy into developing STEM as a class, as a club, as a program, as a whole. And if we're talking specifically about the high school, we really wanted to focus on making that program something that other programs could lean on. So incorporating a lot of our CTE courses was essential. If folks on the call are familiar with what's happening in CTE right now, it is a fantastic thing. STEM is not disappearing at all. It is only getting stronger, and it is going to be diffused into all programs of study, career clusters. So we were kind of on the forefront of that whenever we started looking at the integration process. So getting those teachers to buy in to that process, getting our traditional academic teachers to buy in was a struggle. It was hard. It was new. It was different. It was something that they were uncomfortable with at first, but it took a lot of conversation, a lot of one-on-one, a lot of PD, and just a lot of them seeing how good this really could be for kids. So 2017, 2018 school year, I'm sorry, 2017 to 2019 of fall, we had a lot of struggles. We knew we wanted to be good, but we just didn't know exactly what direction we were going in. We were kind of hodgepodge, picking little things. But when Anna joined us, our vision became extremely clear. We had a very strong academic teacher. I'm going to brag on Anna for a moment here. She's a level 5 geometry teacher, throwing that out there. We had a level 5 geometry teacher that was embracing, harnessing, and just excelling with all the STEM concepts in her class. And so that's really when the program itself started to take off. So, Anna, if you want to add to some of that, just you came in after we had already gotten started, but you really pushed us forward. You're muted right now, Anna.
So I think it was one of those things. It was really encouraging for a lot of the standardized testing teachers to see that even though the strict standards hold you to what you've got to teach, that the project-based learning really does enhance that, and it allows the students just to get a better overall comprehension. And so when I was able to do that, still get all my standards covered and do it while the students are doing projects and they're incorporating STEM, I think it really encouraged a lot of our other EOC teachers to try the same. And so we were able to start incorporating. We were able to teach a class called STEMlish. Ben led that with one of our English teachers, and it was STEM and English combined into one. And so those students, Ben can talk a little bit about that in a second, had a pretty decent, substantial growth compared to our regular ed English classes that didn't have the STEM in it. We've had other English teachers looking to use 3D printers and other STEM incorporation and just different ways that they can get kids more interested in their standards. We've got history teachers now looking at using VR to take their kids back in time almost. So just being able to be a resource, like Ben said, to give these teachers access to new things that they can try and figure out what works, all while bringing STEM into their rooms as well. One other thing, I think we didn't want it to stop necessarily just in the classroom. So I think one thing Ben always talks about is we're unique. Most schools start at the elementary school and go up. We started at the high school and went down. And so one thing we really try to do is just bring in our community as much as possible. We do several big events here at our high school. We do a big Halloween STEMtacular, is what we call it, and Christmas as well. And there are these large scale events that we have our students plan and design. And we've got students creating escape rooms and creating all the puzzles for them to solve. But it's a giant event that our community comes. We host around 1,500 people for the events, and it's just a way that our community can come and see what our STEM program is doing. And that gets the younger kids excited. That gets them hearing what STEM is already. And so just a great way to pull that in.
And so one thing I would love to add is that STEM was never mandated at Peabody High School with our teachers. It was 100% organic. The conversation was, here's what we can offer to help you with your classes. There was never an email sent out saying you will do this. The email sent out were, we're here to help. If you want to do this, let us know how much we can help. We can go all in with you. We can offer a little bit of assistance. Let us know, and we're happy to do it. And it became contagious. The amount of energy around that program and around what the students were doing, it was making the students ask their other teachers, like, when do we get to do something like this in class? So contagious, spread throughout the high school, trickled down to the middle school, because we knew that we were going to get those students eventually. So we need them to have a head start. And then it went down to the elementary level. So it just grew. And like Anna said, it starts with the community. Having that community piece in the rubric is big, but having that community piece for your students and for your school is even greater.
Thank you so much, Ben and Anna. Kareth Griffin from University Middle School.
Hi, everyone. That was a great story. I wanted you guys to keep talking. I was writing down thoughts and ideas as I was listening to you. I'm the executive director, which is our name for principal at University Middle School. We were founded as a middle school in 2019, and so everything is new for us. And so in our 5th year, we are very honored and proud to be a STEAM designated school. Our process began when we were founded, because we were founded as a PBL school. That was the model that was decided upon by the advisory board and those who worked to build out the programming for the school. I came on board the 2nd year of the school in 2020, which was everyone's favorite year in the history of school years. And we kind of worked through things and kind of did the best that we could really wanting to keep STEM and PBL alive as much as possible. And so I think our teachers did an excellent job. We were fortunate in 2021 to move into our permanent location where we currently reside, which is on the campus of the University of Memphis. And so the community piece we fell into its lap, so to speak. We have a wealth of resources. And one of the first things that I did was reached out to Dr. Ivy and the STEM Hub and to folks on campus. And she made lots of introductions for us to get the community involved in learning how to actually become the school that we were created to be. We opted the first year not to even apply to become a STEAM designated school because we had so many different iterations of what we were trying to do. We wanted to find one that would stick. And so very happy that we were able to do it this past school year. The way that our programming works is I have a position, and she wasn't able to be with us today, but I have a PBL and STEM coordinator, and her sole purpose every day is to coordinate these programs and to intertwine them as much as humanly possible. And so the iteration that we do of PBL heavily involves STEM, where every student in the building does 2 STEM PBL projects every school year and 2 humanities PBL projects every school year. We display the work that the students do twice a year in our exhibitions, which is basically when we turn our school into a museum and we open it up to the community and to parents to come and see the projects that the students have been working on. The way that we, to your earlier point, being it was challenging in the beginning to get teachers on board because of the mandate of state standards, which we are required to teach. But what we found is that if we support them and give them the professional development that they need, we got them on board rather quickly. We give students driving questions, but the questions are developed by our teachers. And so we originally started trying to use packaged projects, things that other people had created. And there was always someone who would say, this doesn't fit my standards. This is not what I'm teaching. And so we decided to let them create those questions. And so the teachers got together, all 4 core contents, and created the driving questions that we put in front of students. And so because they had so much autonomy and so much voice, it wasn't a big pool to get them to be on board with it because they were projects that they designed and came up with. When moving into our new space, one of the things that we wanted to make sure that we had was a space for students to be able to create. And so we have a maker space on campus, which is where our students can go and to design anything. We partner with the STEM Hub here on campus, and they're in our building weekly doing projects with kids, teaching them how to use all of the things that I never learned how to use as a student, but they incorporate those into their projects. And so it's an ongoing process. We start the very first week of school. We don't end until the last week of school. And so it's not like it's ice cream. It's not like the dessert. It's not like, oh, if you do this, then you get to do these fun things. And the kids love it. The teachers are on board, the families love it, the parents, the community is very heavily engaged and involved with this process. And so that's kind of what our journey was when I began hiring teachers, because we started with one group of 6th graders. And as they grew, we hired new teachers each year. And so the first thing that I did upon hiring new staff, new faculty, was to send them to the Buck Institute to be trained in PBL. So everyone on our team was trained by the Buck Institute on PBL 101 so that they would just kind of have a framework for what we do. And so that's kind of what our journey has been. I'm making sure I didn't leave out anything. I wrote a few notes. Yeah, and so that's kind of, and we end up here. And so now we again have this full-time person who works with teachers. She's responsible for professional development. She's responsible for doing the legwork to kind of take away from teachers I have too much to do. I can't also plan this. I can't also do that. And so she does all of the legwork, all of the running, all of the coordinating to make sure that teachers and students have everything that they need when it's time for them to meet. Our schedule is also very unique. Our students are in class, their core content classes, Monday through Thursday, and Friday is PBL and STEM day. And so every Friday, after their morning elective, They spend the balance of the day working on their projects that they have been working on since the beginning of the year. We did decide this year to incorporate 3 weeks at the beginning of the year before we ever talked about PBL or STEM to go through several different types of assessments for students to teach them how they work with others, to teach them about themselves. And so we did the Clifton Strength Test and a lot of other assessments so that they would know like what their role is in a group. How do you function best? And that has yielded great dividends because students we don't have as many conflicts within groups. Teachers use that information to create the groups that students work in throughout the year. And so it's been very beneficial. Now we are in the process of fine tuning. They're creating their driving question. They have their driving questions. They're creating their products. And it's real fun. We just have fun with it. And I think the one thing that I've told my teachers is that, hey, you're at a place where you get to do all of the fun things that you couldn't do at other places because you didn't have the support of the administration or you didn't have the funds. Whatever the case was that prevented you from doing those things, you get to do them here. And so we've seen it work really well.
Thank you, Mrs. Griffin. Next up we have Jessica Buddy, assistant principal from Rivercrest Elementary, which I think is in Bartlett Schools. Jessica. Yep.
All right. Well, thank you so much again for having me. Honored to be a part of this panel. So our STEAM journey is a little interesting. So back when Bartlett City Schools was created and there was the merger and then the demerger of the municipal districts, our school population suffered a loss because of where we are located within the county or within the city of Bartlett. And so we lost a lot of students. So our district was kind of coming up with how they can bring students and move them back into the Rivercrest school. And so they created an application-based STEAM honors program, which was one class section for grades 1 through 5 that you applied to be in based on a rubric. And so we did that for several years, but we found that we were just pulling students from our own school, that it wasn't really bringing people from anywhere else. There were a few here and there, but so as we changed leadership, we had a retirement of a principal. One of the things that was really important to our new leadership was that we build the STEAM program and how can we offer STEAM for all. So the application-based program was working well. And my role in the STEAM journey has been kind of interesting because I previously taught 3rd grade here at Rivercrest. So I taught one of the STEAM honors sections. And so I've seen it both from the lens of a teacher and then also as a part of the leadership team, really driving forward the STEAM designation. So when we started to think about how we were going to do STEAM for all, we did participate in TSIN's ILI Innovative Leaders Institute and really got some great ideas and networking from other leaders across the state and how they implement in their programming. So that was very helpful in doing that. So one of the things that we started, and I've heard you guys mention this, is about getting the staff on board and really empowering them to know that they are capable of doing this, that this is something that they really already do, that STEAM is not just an activity. It's more about a mindset of what they're embracing that engineering design process. And it's more than just building a bridge or building a boat, or it's about the process that's involved in that. And so really sitting down with our teachers and asking them, because what we found is that the only people who felt like STEAM teachers were the people who were teaching and leading the STEAM honors sections. And so really trying to get them to buy into the mindset that everyone in our building was really a STEAM teacher. So that was one thing that we started with in changing the mindset of our teachers. We've also since hired a STEAM STEAM teacher that teaches our LAMPS classes. So that's part of our LAMPS rotation. So every student will get STEAM. It comes out to about roughly once a week. We're on a 6-day rotation of our specials classes. So, and so when I say LAMPS, that's their library, art, music, PE. So they have we have a STEAM teacher that meets with we're pre-K through 5. So she even meets with our little pre-K babies about once a week. And so they get lots of good STEAM engineering design process and good communication and collaboration, even the little ones. So that's been fun to see. In addition, we've also involved our families in the communities, just like I've heard you say. We've really leaned on resources that are our families who operate businesses that can really support the teachers in getting these standards across. We have a parent that builds chicken coops. So when one grade level was working on life cycles of animals, he came in and brought chicken eggs, and they incubated them and they studied them. And unfortunately, they had a couple failures. And so they were able to track like the temperature and different things that were going on and what variables were able to go into why those failed. And so we've really leaned on our community for support and bringing them in to establish those career connections for the kids. So that's just been a big thing for our STEAM journey. So we're really excited about where we are and where we're going to continue to go. So yeah.
Thank you so much. All of your stories are so interesting and really so inspiring. And I kind of wish I could go back in time and go back to school and go through your programs. There's still always oh no, we are glad we're not back there still. So we wanted to make most of this session interactive with the audience because there's so much interest. I know a lot of programs are really thinking about how they're going to go about approaching STEM or STEAM designation. And so I'm going to ask one other really quick question. So everybody else that's in the audience, please feel free to go ahead and either type questions that you have into the chat or be ready to unmute yourself in just a second. But I know with Trenton's special school district, you guys were heavily CTE engaged or infused with your model. With the University Middle and Rivercrest Elementary, was CTE involved in this, or was this separate?
So I can kind of speak for our district. Our director of CTE through the district level is a huge support here. So he's been here several times, whether that is emailing and saying, hey, I've got some STEAM money. What do you guys need? So even if it's just down to, the support that they provide as far as resources go, our CTE program coordinator at the district level is hugely involved in what we're doing.
I'll share that is actually one of our goals that we set for this year is to become more to involve more CTE. We do offer STEM classes for all 3 grade levels, but that is something that as we exited last year and kind of went into this year, we listed as an area of focus for us. And so we are in the midst of that journey now. That's not something that we have incorporated as well as we would like.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. So for those of you on the call, is there anybody who would like to start off with a first question, either unmuting or putting it in the chat? I'm sure we have some brave souls out there. If not, I will ask more questions, but we want this to be able to support all of you as you're thinking about your applications and things that you're doing with your schools.
While they're thinking about questions and someone's getting that courage going, what I heard from all the descriptions of the programs is really an essential culture piece that's developed from that designation process. The designation process is a beast, and someone said we didn't do it because we didn't feel like we were ready, that is so okay. On tsin.org on the website and the resource page, there's actually an action plan that we map out 2 years. If you want to start this process from zero, 2 years it can be done. And it's mapped out the steps that you would take or could take in order to get that going. So if you're having the thought of, my gosh, I want to do this, but that culture piece isn't there, I would almost venture to say that that culture piece is one of the largest pieces that comes with designation. And it almost helps develop more cohesion amongst the staff whenever you're starting to pull those resources from the other teachers and what are you doing here? How can we do this better? You're about to get a ton of great ideas, but you're also about to get some buy-in. And when you get that buy-in from those teachers and that administration, that's when that culture really starts to become stronger. I was on a call the other day and someone made a comment. They were going to this school, they were going to this school, they were going to this school, and they were talking about the energy level that they just felt when they walked into the schools. And my rebuttal to them was, you just walked into those three, all of them were STEM designated schools. So there's something to be said about that culture piece. And I see we have a couple questions here, so I'll pause.
Well, and that's such a great point, because definitely that was one of the things I noted in all of the discussions, is that was really a strong aspect of your work. And I think that's probably the thing that makes a school most likely to be successful. So we have lots of questions coming in. So this is great. So we'll start with the first one. How do you incorporate the engineering design process in a world language class?
I'll share just one brief example of what we're trying to do. We offer Spanish, Japanese, and Mandarin at University Middle. And so whenever the students are creating their products for their projects, our Spanish or our language teachers push into different grade levels. And so right now we have someone who's trying to create an app that will translate the information that they're doing into, actually it's a Spanish teacher, into Spanish. And so like when we had a group that created a cookbook for their product for our last project that we did. The Spanish teacher pushed in and said, hey, I'm going to assist you by helping you to translate this book into Spanish. That was to kind of get their feet wet. And so now they want to create an app where it'll translate automatically. And so it's a trial and error. I don't think they're close to figuring it out yet. But things like that, where you start off with something that's an easy incorporation, and then you kind of watch it grow from there. But just the thought of them wanting to create that app in different languages, because they don't know the language well enough in 6th grade to really be able to do it to the extent that they want to do it. I'm letting them have fun trying to figure it out how to do that. And so that's just one simple idea of how we've tried to incorporate our world languages. But all of we call them Encore, I think y'all call them LAMPs in Bartlett. We call them our Encore classes. So our Spanish, PE, music, band, all of those teachers, they push in to each group. They have a grade level that they're assigned to per round, and they figure out ways to incorporate their content into what the students are learning.
That's a great example. Do others have thoughts on this?
We don't have foreign languages here, but one thing that we, like I said, when we were really getting the culture and the mindset of our teachers on board with, I'm a STEAM teacher, that it's not just one person, really kind of helping them to see that what they do every day embeds the engineering design process, whether that be doing a rough draft in writing, how I have a prompt and I answer the question, and then I have some edits that I need to do and how I need to go back and redesign or rework things. And so again, seeing that it's something beyond just the activity or a final product, but it's part of the process of what I do daily, I think was the biggest thing that, we don't have world languages here, but just seeing that it's a part of any class that you teach, or it can be used in any class that you teach, even if it's just referencing the process and where they might be, where that activity might fall on the process of it.
Our Spanish teacher provided a great example of how she tied in the engineer design process to one of her projects. They had been doing this project for ages, where the students would have to build a house, they'd have to make that physical model, but they would have to label all the parts of the house in Spanish. So here's what you're already doing. Here's a way that we can help enhance your project. What if your students had to have a piece of that house that was 3D printed? And now we've tied in that entire 3D printing project to that one Spanish project that she had. What if your students had to do some research on a construction job and they had to incorporate all the jobs that were tied into actually building a house? And instead of just the pieces of the house, what if now they're labeling the people and the components of the house to which this career ties into, this career. And so it just really helped her transform that entire project. Again, something she was already doing really well, tying STEM concepts in, engineering design process, just helped her enhance that project. And they continue to do it, as far as I know.
That's great. So there is another question in the chat for Ms. Griffin, in particular. It says, you mentioned a STEM 101 PD that your teachers attend, but I did not catch the name.
I put it in the chat so that everyone can see it. It's PBL Works, and it's just pblworks.org. It's by the Buck Institute, but that's the initial training for all of our teachers.
Perfect, thank you. And then Ben, you might have already added this in here. Yep, you added in the STEM page, so we're good there. All right, so let me move on to the next question. So what was the best strategy or strategies you found to work for tracking evidence? So pictures or community events, projects. And let's maybe start with this one with Anna.
Pictures are great. You can never have enough pictures of what projects your students are doing, what you're doing with your events. I think that's one of the main ones we were able to use with our STEM designation is being able to show what our students are doing through those pictures whenever we have those events, showing the community involvement, as well as the tie-ins for our other schools as well, of just, we are working from the middle school up and, how we're tying that in as well.
Jessica, you want to add to that?
Sure. So the best strategy, like Anna said, taking pictures, always take pictures, be that person that says smile and get everybody in, and tell your story. That's one thing that our administration is big on, is just making sure your story is shared from your perspective, because someone will tell it, but you want it to be you. But I will say that I was just kind of reminiscing back when last year I participated in this panel as a listener, and someone shared at the time, I think it was Arlington, somebody from Arlington Middle, they shared that they had a website, and that is what they use to apply and collect all their artifacts and house their artifacts. When they applied, they just linked that website. And that is something that we used last year. When we applied, we kind of made our own website and built in our narratives, uploaded the pictures and the artifacts, really kind of made that a part of our STEAM advisory board, building that website so that could be our housing area for all of our artifacts. And we kind of broke it down in that way by each attribute on the application, to where we were able to break everything, saying this goes here, and some things apply in more than one attribute. But that was really helpful as far as this panel helping me last year. And now here I am sitting on the panel.
Well, that is great to hear.
Just a suggestion, I'm probably oversharing, but I had a student who got in trouble last year for using his cell phone. and recording some of his classmates, like, you know, they were in lunch and he was out making videos. He was going around interviewing kids. And I said, well, okay, this is now your new job. And so every time we have PBL work on Fridays, his job became, I gave him an iPad, and his job became to interview students, to talk about what they were doing and why they were doing it and what was their goal, and to take pictures. And he had to send them to me with like times and what was the date, what was happening. And he took a lot of pride and ownership in that. And so like using the students so that it's not such a heavy lift for teachers. And sometimes we get really busy in the details of projects and we forget to stop and take a picture or to write down exactly what was going on. And so like those kids who love having their cell phones, who love have the gift of gab, like use those children to be a part of that process. And so he was learning technology. I brought in a professional photographer to kind of meet him and talk to him about the importance of lighting and angles and capturing, and made a big deal out of it. And he took it very seriously. And so a lot of our evidence was captured by students as they went throughout the process. And then we also incorporated like a photo journaling aspect to a lot of our projects, as well as one of the group members for each group was someone has to be the person who captures all the information.
I love that idea. Thank you for sharing that. Let's see here. Next question on here. Are we able to find examples of incorporating STEM and STEAM in ELA classrooms?
So the reason why, if you all can see me when I'm not talking, the reason why I'm here and then here, I was trying to get ahead of this question, Stephanie. So the answer to that is yes. And it is actually through the computer science portion of the TSIN website. There are other places, but this was just one that I was able to find quickly. Tying in computer science, because if we think of computer science here and we think of STEM here, right? So computer science is STEM. We think about tying those two together, which they already are. And then we think about that designation rubric. There's a computer science component in there. There's a technology component in there that now says, what do you do besides one-to-one Chromebooks? What do you do besides one-to-one with your Chromebooks for technology integration? And then that computer science portion that now exists in there. So looking at the computersciencetn.org on the resources page, and again, I'll put the link in the chat here. There are model lessons for elementary, middle school, and high school. And all of those model lessons include something for most of the subject areas. And I was looking for English specifically, and it's called Analysis of Informational Texts with Algorithms. So we've tackled ELA, we've tackled computer science, we have a project that's already built out for you, and you can tie that into your designation rubric as one of your stronger computer science projects. So you just knocked out 3 to 4 things right there with that one resource.
And I will also share these links that Ben is pasting over here in our chat with the email that I send out after this that has your PDH certificate as well. So if you don't get a chance to grab it from the chat, I'll be emailing it to you. Other questions that people have? Well, I have one other one. You know, you guys talked a little bit about this in some of the responses that you gave to earlier questions, but I wanted to see if each of you could go a little bit more in depth in terms of describing how you coordinate your STEAM or your STEM projects across, whether it's, you know, maybe within a grade or if it's across grade levels. Do you have thematic connections? You know, what is it that you do in terms of coordination within your programs?
I'll say something very short, and then I'm going to turn this over to Anna because she is the one that made that magic happen. We saw the importance of identifying that coordinator piece because what we needed was fluidity amongst everyone, but we needed cohesion amongst everyone. y'all are doing your own thing. That's great, but we all need to be in the same book at least. Maybe we're not on the same page every single day, but we need to be working out of the same book. Metaphor, not an actual STEM book. But we needed communication. So we developed that coordinator position, and then that became into our STEM leadership team. So coordinator at the top here, and then we have from our subjects who it was that we could go to just to identify, here are the projects that we're working on in English. What can we do in math? What can we do in history? What can we do in biology to tie that in? So Anna, I'm going to turn that over to you now since you're running that show.
Yeah, so as far as the planning of it goes, I'm the district coordinator as well as the coordinator for the high school. And so I reach out to our department chairs and find out ways of resources I can get them, as well as what can we do in our STEM class to help their standards as well. So for example, our English teacher last year was doing a project on the Three Little Pigs and the different versions of the stories and going through that. And so I partnered with her, and in my STEM class, we went through the engineering design process using the Three Little Pigs story. And so just working with each teacher about what resources they need, as well as helping them plan, especially EOC teachers, they may not be against doing a lot of these projects, but it's very hard to find time to plan them. And so if you've got those STEM coordinators around who maybe do have more of the time, I'm able to go in with our tested subjects and say, okay, here's the standard. Let me find a project that you can do in there. Let me find the resources. And, you can be the one that implements that, but it takes the load off of them. It doesn't feel like one more thing they have to get through. And so as Ben said, we've got that person for each of our school districts, or not each of our districts, each of our schools. And another thing as well, our leadership team in STEM, we also work together beyond just the intercurriculum STEM. As far as our overall STEM projects, we work with our middle school and elementary school closely to make sure our program is going in the same direction. So for instance, we have decided that we want to really jump on board with drones. And so we've worked with our elementary school students. We do STEM camp over the summer. And so our elementary school students are learning basic how to fly drones. Our middle school students are now got some more high-tech drones that they're learning to use and begin programming on. And so now we've worked with our high school to start getting some certifications, the 107 drone certification. And so we meet frequently, about once a month, and discuss kind of just what our goals are and how we can coordinate our schools to make sure we're working from the bottom up to get there.
That's fantastic. Who would like to go next?
Okay. So restate the question one more time for me, because I want to make sure I have all the pieces of it in my mind of what I want to say.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm interested in knowing a little more detail on how you coordinate STEM or STEAM, in your case, team, but how you're doing that, whether it's just within a grade, whether it's across grade levels. Do you go so far as to, have thematic focuses, or what are you doing for the coordination part?
So our teachers, we give them the autonomy in planning their PBLs. They do quarterly PBLs. They choose based on their standards for that quarter, what their essential question is going to be. Like I think fifth grade, this first quarter, they were studying the 3 regions of Tennessee. And so their question was something about which region of the state of Tennessee had the most economic impact, or it was really, that was what was driving their research. And so it was something that was important to the teachers, and therefore then could funnel into the importance to the students. We also, so they meet weekly in PLCs. That discussion is part of that. In addition, they have half-day plannings once a quarter to really plan those PBLs long-term, like what it looks like in the next semester or the next quarter, who they want to bring in as far as a career connection goes. So we really just give them that autonomy. In addition, our STEAM teacher does have additional planning periods during the day where she is able to go and work with the different grade levels as needed to provide resources, as Anna and Ben shared, provide resources or ideas or links to things just to support in any way that she can. And then also as a STEAM advisory board, we also meet monthly, and we have a school-wide STEAM project that we do around Christmas, around the winter time, and really get ideas from our teachers during that advisory panel, what that's going to look like. It started as one thing and it evolved into something different last year, and it's evolving. So it's kind of the same project, but we're making it evolve based on input from the teachers and how they want it to look and how they want to build it and who they want to bring in as far as a community partner goes. So it's really growing, that school-wide STEAM project. So we're really excited about that too. So
thank you. Miss Griffin.
So our PBL and STEM coordinator starts in the summer. The first charge that I gave her was to learn everybody's standards, like familiarize yourself with 6th, 7th, and 8th grade standards for English, math, science, and social studies. No, you're not going to be the expert, but know what they are and start looking for connections and areas that we can work together. And so because our teachers have the autonomy to not follow the scope and sequence of the district, they can move the standards around and teach them in order that they choose. She comes in to in-service, which is primarily dedicated to PBL and STEM, with ideas just to kind of get their juices flowing, get them like excited about working with another teacher. And so she comes in and says, I've looked at everybody's standards for quarter one. Here's where I see some connections, and she shares those. Once the school year starts, she meets weekly with every grade level team. And so in those weekly grade level team meetings, she is responsible for, again, presenting a plan. The plan can be adapted, amended however the teachers would like to do, but she kind of goes in with something so that they're not starting from scratch. And then once the questions are agreed upon, the driving questions are agreed upon, she then takes the charge of doing all the legwork and sourcing out connections and planning the experiences that the students are going to have, planning the Fridays, because every Friday looks different. And so that's the biggest part of her role. Outside of that, she's not a member of our admin team, but I do have her to drop into every classroom at least once a quarter to do an unofficial observation. And the purpose of that is to be able to say, hey, I heard you doing this lesson. Here's an easy way to incorporate STEM into what you were doing. Or to ask them more questions about the lesson so that she can find ways when they can incorporate. So she'll walk into an English class and say, hey, this is something that you could possibly consider based on what you're teaching right now. And so to kind of give teachers some ideas so that they're not having to do all of the heavy lifting. The way that we do our projects is that every grade level, again, has the driving question. And so right now, every sixth grade and 7th grade have a STEM question that they're working on. And so 7th grade STEM question is, how can we educate the public about the benefits of healthy lifestyle choices and the effects of physical activity on various body systems? And so there's English in there, there's speaking and listening, there's science in there, there's math in there, and the arts as far as the presentation, the different types of ways that we can present the information. Our music teacher is pushing in to give them ideas. Some of them are producing commercials. And so we incorporate our art teacher. And so there's all sorts of ways that everybody can kind of work together to support that specific question for that grade level, but each grade level has their own. She also, our STEM coordinator, is also a part of our leadership team. And so we meet weekly as an admin team to find out what support she needs, what additional funds she may need, what type of budget she's working with, how can we support it, what professional development. We have her to be very instrumental in planning our PD days. And so After every major break, we give our teachers an additional day before students come back. That day is always dedicated to STEM and PBL to determine what we need to go forward. And so whenever we as an admin team are meeting to plan professional development, our weekly professional development on Mondays, she has one, so our faculty meetings are on a rotation, and the third Monday of every month is PD. She is responsible for that. She can use that time to bring in someone to train teachers, or she can use that time to train teachers herself. And so we just try to make sure that everybody's talking about STEM. It's not just her. It's the assistant director. When we do our official TIM observations, a part of our feedback has to include, did we hear or see or observe something STEM or STEAM related? And if not, we make suggestions in our feedback as to a website or an article or something that teachers can use as they move forward.
Thank you. So we have one more question in the chat, and this one asks what additional level of financial commitment was required for you guys to get your programs to the point where you're successfully STEM or STEAM designated. So Ms. Griffin, let's start with you.
Yeah, it wasn't required, but I felt compelled to move around some funds to hire this, to create this position, and to hire a STEM coordinator. And so it's a salary. The STEAM designation does come with a grant that has been very instrumental. For us, the biggest expense was creating our makerspace and buying all of the equipment. There, all of the 3D printers and the power tools and the sewing machines and all the fabric, like everything that's in there. It is a cost, and the consumables, the students actually go in there and use it. And so we set aside funds in our yearly budget for consumables for the makerspace. And I invest in the teachers in training. And so this summer I invested a lot of money in my STEM coordinator, sending her to all sorts of trainings to make sure that she is up on the latest of everything. And then each teacher has the opportunity to find a conference of their choosing, and we support them in getting to those conferences. And so the investments are not required, but in order to get us to the level that we want to be, we felt the need to make sure that we earmark a generous amount of funds to be able to support the program.
Thank you. How about for the Trenton Special School District?
So a little bit different approach from what Ms. Griffin was just saying. Because STEM was housed as a CTE program, we did have access to Perkins funding. But when the program started, I was not even aware that Perkins funding was available. So, you know, the things that I've learned over the years now, right? If I could go back, like you said, Stephanie. But what we did recognize was that a leader was needed. So I didn't ask for any money to do it. All I asked was that if I could be the STEM coordinator, we could get our folks on board and on the same book or the same page, what I used earlier. So it was really just having the title, not for the power, the title for the alignment. And I want to make sure that I say that very clearly, to make sure that we're all having the same vision, the same goal in mind was the number one thing for us. The money came after. The program became strong, and that was because of the energy level from our teachers. That was because of the energy level from our students. I got really good at finding grants and writing those grants. I hope most of you applied for the TVA grants. We're wrapping up judging those applications right now, matter of fact. Community donations were always huge. And one thing that I know Anna does a great job, and we always made sure that we appreciated the $20 bill as much as the $20,000 grant. And that was a very important piece for us, because there's going to be a day when we don't have $1 million per high school and $500,000 per middle school ISM grant. There's going to be a day when that may not be available for us to get all of the things and buy the stuff. So with that being said, our focus was, let's make this meaningful first, and then we're going to get the resources that we need. And if we have to stay late and do a fundraiser because our kids need something, we're going to stay late and do a fundraiser. If we have to reach out to community members and say, hey, what can y'all give us, or how can you help us? If they don't have the money to give us, then can you give us your time? Developing those partnerships, even more so important than them writing out of that checkbook for us. So like you said, Stephanie, and like you said, Ms. Griffin, the financial commitment is not required. It helps. Absolutely. It helps to have the tools and things that you needed. The finance pieces are out there. They are available. Sometimes it takes some hunting to find, takes some conversations, difficult conversations to have, to say, we need these things if we're going to be as successful as we know we can be. So to Ms. Griffin's point, you're going to need some backing if you want to have that certain success level. But can designation be done without it? Yes. Can a successful STEM program happen without it? Absolutely. Community, your kids, your teachers, most of all, you need that energy level. Anna, did you want to add anything to that?
Just that I really do think that's key. I got in on pretty close to the front end of all this, and whenever the money was not always there, there was not these thousands of dollars we could throw on projects. And Ben, I may butcher how you say this. There's two ways STEM starts. Is, you know, sometimes you have the money first, and other times you have the people first. And we had the people first. So just a short story here. Ben had not offered me money in STEM at this time. I was teaching geometry. I knew I wanted to do these projects, but we didn't have the money. If I knew about it, I didn't know we had it. And so I was at Walmart one day getting popsicle sticks and all this other stuff that I knew I needed to do a project. And it's not even in our town, but a lady asked me why I was buying all these supplies. And sure enough, I told her we're doing a project in my class. And the next week I had a community member bring by tons of boxes of popsicle sticks because she found out we were doing it for school. And so if you get the teachers excited about this, let's be honest, we're teachers. A lot of us have been buying our own resources for a very long time. The funding is not always there. And so if you have the teachers excited, the teachers make it happen. We all know that already. The teachers make it happen. So this does not have to be something you have the millions of dollars to start. This is something you need the passion to start.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. The money is actually no use without the people. Sometimes if you're lucky, you can use the money to get the people. But it's the people that make it happen. And you had a partnership going there with CTE, and if anywhere that's blessed to have a strong CTE program, I encourage you to reach out to your CTE staff when you're envisioning a STEM program, because what's revolutionary for us on the academic side is the way that they've been doing things on the CTE side for the last 50 years. And so they will be a wealth of ideas, resources, and can really help you out. And that's been a strong link at lots of the really successful programs. We're done because this is 5 p.m. I just want to wrap everything up. I want to thank our panelists for joining us and thank the audience for participating. Please stay in touch. So if you have more questions about the STEM designation process, feel free to reach out to Stephanie. And we'll get you what information we can. Stephanie will be putting the links together, and we'll send out a summary of the panel. I want to thank everyone for joining us. It's been a true pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.